Hey there, hunters, and welcome back to the Gunners Guild. Today, we're in Wild Hearts and we're talking about the cannon and what it does and how to use it. Before we jump into today, though, I do have to let you know again that I do play with mouse and keyboard and some really weird keybinds, so my instructions will need a little bit of deciphering on your end. I use the left click for my special attack, R as attack 1 for ranged weapons, and E as attack 2 for ranged weapons. So in relation to a controller, it would be right trigger is my left click, X or circle is my R, and Y or triangle is my E. So keep that in mind, but let's get into this. The cannon is a rather convoluted weapon, not complicated, just convoluted. There's a lot of work to be done for rather little gain in my opinion, but I know there are skills and such to help it later on, so it's probably really good late game and just really bad early game. But anyway, let's just discuss the cannon. Basic operating instructions are simple. Left click or trigger to fire. As you fire, you will lose your blue meter, which is effectively your ammo, and you gain heat instead. If you shoot too much, you will overheat and you can't shoot your weapon for a while. When you run out of ammo, you do need to place these key things, I guess, with the ground with R, effectively reloading your cannon as you stand in the ring. I'm just going to call these mortars, you'll see. Now you can place up to 5 of these mortars on the ground, and you can press your left click or trigger and R to suck them up regardless of where you are or where they are, and you can retrieve all of them back up to you and have your 5. Now the purpose of these mortars is not just for ammo pools, but you need to expunge your heat with them. Once your heat gauge is in red and flaming, but not overheated, you can fire the mortar with E, and hit the target monster with them. If it lands, it will deal more damage and fall back on the ground somewhere. You kind of have to go and keep an eye on them and chase them down. From there though, you need to go into the pool and then press left click or your trigger and E to soak up the now red circle that the mortar had dropped. Doing this imbues your cannon with energy. Doesn't provide you with any additional damage or benefits, but it now allows you to press E and trigger, or left click, to fire your laser, which is an insane nuke of damage and lights that just this whole weapon is designed around. It definitely keeps the ADD in check. And then you go back to square one and repeat that all over again. You can randomly fire mortar bases with E with no heat, but they do very little damage and there's not much of a point to that. The other attacks the cannon has are from the Karakuri crafts. With the box, you can vault into the air and fire a charged shot down onto the enemy, or enemies, as it does have some AoE. This isn't particularly strong, it's only about as good as shooting twice, and the real killer is that it provides no heat, so there's no real reason to use this like ever. Now from the springboard, you can fire a fan of shots, which does provide you good coverage and a good amount of heat. 2 is typically enough to get your mortars ready to go. Problem is that it just takes a long time to recover from this animation, and you can't change a direction of fire like the bow can, so you always end up firing in the direction that you're springboarding to, which is kind of lame. And then also you can't roll into the springboard and you just kind of roll through it. You have to actually like touch it while walking, and you have an abysmal walk rate, so yeah, it's just kind of bad. So because of this, we're also not really using it too much. Where cannon gets the most out of the Karakuri though is the glider. Now aerial bowgun is back. For some reason, you shoot much faster while gliding than on the ground, so you can quickly fill up the heat gauge with one glider use while staying out of harm's way from most ground-based attacks. Then you just drop to the ground and use your mortar and then go right into laser. No, you can't laser from the air, I wish I tried. You also can't do anything else from the air except just normal shot, which is kinda lame. So for the most part, the cannon rotation looks like this. Get on the glider, fire until you're hot, land, use the mortar, go fetch the mortar, suck up the energy, fire the laser, rinse and repeat. With cannon's abysmal roll and walk speed, you really don't want to be on the ground anyway. While I like the cannon's rotation, it's kind of fun to use, there's just a lot of hiccups with the weapon that prevent me from enjoying it fully. Some of the things you have to look out for is that the critical distance for this cannon is really bad. You will more often be not shooting for just 1 damage since you're out of critical distance range, and you just want to build up heat anyways, so you kind of feel like you're playing really bad. Since all the cannon's damage is kind of front loaded into the laser, I think it's more optimal just to build up heat as quick as you can. The second thing is that the mortar range is actually very short, and you will need to chase down monsters to be able to land the mortars sometimes, since it actually has to land on the monster, not just take damage from the AoE ring, not just get near it, it has to actually touch it, which is kind of a letdown too. So you're trying to reposition with the abysmal speed, and it feels terrible, and then doing so takes time, which makes you lose the heat gauge that you had built up in the first place, so sometimes you'll end up firing a mortar that lost its red heat, and then you just wasted all of that time. So it's rather frustrating. Now on top of that, there's also no hyper armor for the laser, so you can be knocked out of it by small monsters, which will get in the way for sure, any attack from an enemy obviously, and any friendly Karakuri crafts like the bombs, all that stuff, and sudden gusts of wind. And if that wasn't enough, the abysmal speed and rolling is huge, and it's a big detriment in the later half of the game where monsters literally don't stop attacking and you don't have a block, so yeah, good luck. But that's kind of my quick tutorial on the cannon gameplay. I wish I liked it more. It's fun, it's just not very good in my opinion, at least not right now. Again, maybe endgame sets will be better. But yeah, that's gonna be all for me. Thank you all for watching, and thank you for my Patreon members. Appreciate you all a ton, and good luck out there, hunters.